Do you feel like you're no longer the person you used to be? Do you feel like all your beautiful traits have been stripped away? Are you struggling to distinguish what is real and what is not? Chances are you've been strategically trauma-bonded to a narcissist for quite some time, living in a false reality. The casual tossing around of the word narcissist has led many people to falsely believe that a narcissist is simply someone who has an inflated sense of confidence and perhaps a slightly inflated ego, too. Unfortunately, the dictionary reinforces this belief with its description of a narcissist, stating that they are, quote, a person who has an excessive interest in or admiration of themselves, end quote. This is more likely to be the definition of someone who is arrogant and not someone who is narcissistic. The reality of a narcissist is much darker than that. A true narcissist is a master at lying, phenomenal at deception, and incredibly talented at curating codependent victims. They are powerful because a narcissist is generally slow and consistent in their approach. They are masters at tearing down other people to the point the victim develops an addiction to the narcissist. The narcissist is not just in love with getting attention, they are completely addicted to it. That is the basis for their entire mental illness. It is what drives them and what results in them masterfully playing out all of their puppeteering behaviors. Schadenfreude is the German word for being a bad sport, but it is more than that. Specifically, it means the enjoyment or pleasure derived from watching the misfortune of others taking glee in someone else's tragedy or failure. This is a hallmark of narcissists and can offer a chilling insight into their worlds. Because narcissists are so envious of others, they also reciprocally believe that others are envious of them. They often do not get pleasure out of someone else's success, especially when they themselves are not happy with where they are in life, which is often because of their fragile self-esteem. This is magnified with their partners. They are rarely able to drum up any enthusiasm for their partner's successes, and when they do, it can feel forced or empty. A consistent theme that arises when I talk with partners of narcissists is their narcissistic partner's utter lack of enthusiasm when something good happens to them, and alternately, their partner's relative satisfaction when things go wrong for them. This can be quite nightmarish if you are in a relationship with a narcissist who not only does not derive pleasure out of your triumphs, but also disparages or mocks them, and may even take dark satisfaction in your failures or losses. This pattern over a long-term relationship takes a significant toll after years or decades of not having successes heralded, but actually disparaged and insulted. Many people I interviewed reported a significant decrease in self-esteem over the course of the relationship. Over time, they transitioned from a sense of confidence and excitement about the future to one of self-doubt, discouragement, and even hopelessness. Ironically, they would often receive cheerleading and support from everyone else, friends, family, co-workers, but because their narcissistic partner could not bring it, they felt as if their lives were one long quest for approval. Approval, they would someday find out, was never going to appear. In terms of personal relationships, manipulation is a slow and steady imbalance of power. This imbalance is created when one person leverages the emotions of fear, obligation, or guilt against another with the ultimate goal of getting their way. This can create an almost seemingly unbearable tension as the direct or implied threat of some sort of punishment hangs in the balance. Once this imbalance takes place, the relationship ceases to be healthy if it ever was and stagnates. At this point forward, the target is on edge around this person, waiting for the next inappropriate request or radical change in temperament to occur. Any of the target's attempts at authentic connection or communication become silenced and are replaced with resentment, insecurity, and fear, and much like a spinning top that gets knocked off center. As long as manipulation is present, the relationship will wobble until it topples over. While it can come across in a wide variety of ways, the common denominator tends to be either a boundary push, such as an inappropriate or uncomfortable request, or a flat-out deception. Manipulation, no matter how mild, is progressive and grows with every subsequent boundary push. However, the target is often unaware that these subtle violations are happening and that the dynamic has become increasingly more imbalanced and one-sided. Manipulation ranges from mild to malicious, direct to indirect, verbal to nonverbal, unintentional to intentional, and annoying to deadly. Anywhere along the spectrum is a problem. On the milder and annoying end of the manipulation spectrum is the parent who tries to guilt their adult child into calling or visiting more. It's the boss who subtly pushes us into working harder, longer, and faster in order to get that promotion that never comes. It's the significant other who is enjoyable to be around as long as they get their way. It's the friend who becomes difficult, snarky, cold, or punishing. If you have something positive in your life that they don't, on the more extreme end is when the attempt is made to hold you emotionally hostage. The stakes at this level are high and the intention is clear. Either do what the manipulator wants, or they will hurt themselves, be hurt by someone else, or will hurt you or those you love. The pressure to act can feel unbearable, as a person often feels they have no choice but to do what seems safest, which often means giving in to the emotional terrorist's demands. The catch is that there is usually no end to the pressure from a manipulator. Giving in doesn't make things better in the long run. It only relieves the target stress and the threat of the situation in the short term. Unfortunately, giving into this kind of behavior doesn't mean that everything now is fine. It means that this dynamic has hit a new low, and that the manipulator will attempt to hold you hostage the next time they want something. Some examples of someone trying to hold you emotionally hostage are threatening suicide if you don't reopen communication, threatening to start drinking, using drugs, or other forms of self-harm if you don't reopen contact with them, threatening to file for full custody, withhold visitation, withhold their visits to the children, not pay child support, or to make the target and the children homeless if they don't get their way, threatening to release sexy, nude, or otherwise personal photos or emails of you online, or to friends, family, and co-workers, threatening to ruin your career if you don't have sex with them, lie for them, or otherwise do what they want. Having a manipulative person in your life is an anxiety-inducing, emotionally and sometimes physically unsafe way to live. Trying to get better at meeting their demands, attempting to cope with the extreme stress, or hoping that the manipulator will change aren't good long-term strategies. At its most severe, manipulation is a power play that's rooted in a dangerous degree of entitlement or sadism. The driving force at this level is a pathological need for control. The only way this type of manipulator is satisfied is if the target is sufficiently destroyed, emotionally or physically, or both. The person you thought was your lover, soulmate, and partner has violated you in ways you never imagined. They have degraded, mocked, and exploited you, then driven your soul to the lowest depths of anguish, and then humiliated you while you were down. They never treated or regarded you as an individual, much less cared about any of your hopes, dreams, or preferences. This relationship dynamic is typical of narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths, pathological liars, and other disordered personality types that have been categorized as cluster B personalities in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM, the standard reference book used by people working in the mental health field. But however we label them disordered, individuals of these types are toxic people who abuse and exploit the unfortunate individuals who enter into relationships with them. You may not know exactly which category of pathology your abusive partner falls into, and in reality, the categories are overlapping and without clear-cut boundaries. But you've acknowledged the deep dysfunction in your relationship, and you recognize the need to leave it behind in order to save your sanity, and possibly even your life. However, despite all the pain and suffering that you've been subjected to, walking away from a toxic relationship that you're enmeshed in is often not so easy. This is where no contact comes into play, since no contact is a strategy of action that will enable you to detach from your abusive partner and reclaim your own life. By going NC, you change what has been your typical habits with this person, or even in your relationships in general, and the time you take and what you do with it will neutralize the effect of this person and your involvement, as well as improve your self-esteem. NC means literally that, so no texts, calls, email, letters, IM, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn snooping, no tapping up mutual friends for information about them. No sex, no meeting up, no attention seeking, basically avoiding anything that keeps you in emotional, spiritual, and physical contact with them. No contact is what I like to think of as the last resort. Many people are confused about what no contact is, with it being viewed as punishment, the silent treatment, a means of playing a game, or what you do only when someone is a really, really bad person. Now, if you think of NC as being any of these things, you're not going to do it because you're either going to feel like a very bad person yourself, or you're going to be engaging in manipulative behavior, or you're going to either wait until things are 100% bad and dangerous, or rationalize that because it's not as bad as whatever you deem to be terrible. You have no option but to keep hammering away at doing what already isn't working. NC isn't punishment. Cutting contact is often seen in one of two misleading ways: self-punishment or punishing the other party. You are most likely to associate NC with you being punished if you tend to see things in terms of your worth or people not doing as you would like them to do as some sort of rejection. So it then becomes a natural next step to think I'm in all of this pain and having to make changes and face uncomfortable realizations. I'm being punished and I don't deserve it. The pain you're experiencing is part of extracting yourself from an unhealthy relationship, as well as a natural part of grief and loss. Not all pain is punishment, and it's unrealistic to expect to exit a relationship that was causing you pain in the first place without experiencing some pain.